I still remember the night I opened that garage door. The smell hit me first. Sharp, chemical, and wrong. Like burnt rubber mixed with cheap perfume. Then I saw it. The tables, the boxes, the bright ring light still humming from the outlet. And in the middle of it all, my sister-in-law's handwriting on a stack of shipping labels. That was the moment my heart sank. Because I realized my kindness had become someone else's business plan. Just 3 months earlier, I thought I was doing something good. Something right. When Jasmine called crying that night, voice cracking over the phone, saying she couldn't make rent, saying she just needed a place to stay for a little while, I didn't hesitate. She was my husband's younger sister, after all. I'd always seen her as a bit lost, but good at heart. The kind of person who never stayed in one place too long, but who still sent birthday cards to my kids. And I knew what it felt like to struggle. To feel like the world had turned its back on you. So I said yes, without thinking. Without even asking Marcus first. And that's how everything began. A normal life, a setup. When Jasmine moved in, our house shifted in small ways. She arrived with a few duffel bags, a half-broken suitcase, and that loud, flowery scent she always wore. Something between vanilla and coconut oil. The kids ran to hug her, calling her Auntie Jazz, their laughter echoing down the hallway. I remember the first night she came. We sat around the dinner table, eating my chicken stew, steam fogging up my glasses. Marcus kept thanking me with his eyes. "You did good, babe," he whispered later that night. She really needed this. And for a while, it did feel good. Jasmine helped around the house, cooked breakfast on weekends, even offered to take the kids to school so I could get extra rest before work. She had that kind of charm. The easy kind. She knew how to talk, how to smile, how to make you forget to be cautious. But slowly, things began to shift again. At first, it was harmless. She started spending a lot of time in the garage, saying she was sorting through her stuff or working on something for a friend. I didn't think much of it. We used that garage for storage mostly. Old holiday decorations, Marcus's tools, my mother's antique dresser that never fit inside. Then came the packages. Little ones at first. Brown boxes with printed labels. They started showing up twice a week, then daily. I thought maybe she was shopping online, or maybe returning things. You know how people are these days, ordering things just to send them back? But something about the way she rushed to the door every time a delivery truck came. Something about how she'd lock the garage afterward. It stuck with me. Still, I pushed it aside. Because in our house, we had a rule. Family first, questions later. The evenings were always the hardest part of my day. I'd come home from work, tired from managing the clinic, my feet aching, my brain still spinning from paperwork and patient calls. Jasmine would be in the kitchen, music playing from her phone, stirring something in a pan while humming to herself. Marcus would tease her. "You trying to outcook my wife now?" And she'd laugh, that high, airy laugh. "Please, Marcus, nobody can touch her collard greens." She was funny, sweet even, the kind of person who knew how to make everyone feel comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. Sometimes I'd catch her watching me, though, when she thought I wasn't looking. Not with malice, but with calculation. Like she was studying something she could use later. And I'd get that chill, the kind that whispers, "Something's off." But then my son would run in asking for help with homework, and life would pull me back to normal. The first real sign came one Sunday morning. I went into the garage to grab my gardening gloves, and I noticed the air was heavy. There were boxes stacked against the wall now. New ones labeled with strange names. Luxe Beauty Co., Serenity Skincare, Glow Rituals. All the same handwriting. Jasmine's looping, neat script. She came in right behind me, too quickly, as if she'd been waiting for that sound of the door creak. "Hey, I was just organizing stuff," she said, a little breathless. I smiled, pretending not to notice. "You've been busy, huh?" She laughed a little too loud. "You know me, gotta keep my hands moving." I nodded, but my stomach tightened. That night, I told Marcus about it, casually, over tea. He shrugged. Maybe she's trying to start some side hustle. I mean, good for her if she is. I wanted to agree, I really did. But something about the smell, the secrecy, the constant deliveries, it didn't feel like a normal business. The next few weeks, Jasmine started acting distant. She spent most nights in the garage until late, sometimes after midnight. Once, I woke up at 2 a.m. to a car idling in our driveway. I peeked out through the curtains and saw her talking to someone, a man I didn't recognize, passing him a bag through the car window. I told myself maybe it was a friend. Maybe she was just selling makeup or something small online. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't sleep after that. Every sound made me sit up. Every late-night car made my pulse race. Then came the day I got a call from our neighbor, Mrs. Ethel. She's the kind of woman who notices everything. "Baby," she said in her slow southern drawl, "I hate to stir trouble, but you know there's been cars pulling up to your house every evening? Folks knocking on your garage like it's some kind of shop." My mouth went dry. "What kind of cars?" "Different ones. Young, people mostly. Sometimes leaving with boxes. You might want to check on that, sweetheart." My hands shook as I hung up. That's when I decided to find out for myself. That evening, after dinner, I told Marcus I was running out for groceries. I waited until the house was quiet, then circled back through the side path that led behind the garage. The light under the door flickered. I could hear faint laughter, music, the sound of something being sealed, tape ripping off a roll. I pressed my ear to the wood, my heart thudding so loud I could barely hear. Then I caught a voice. Jasmine's. "Tell them I'll have the next batch by Friday. No, cash only. I don't do transfers." My whole body went cold. What batch? What cash? I stepped back into the shadows, trying to steady my breath. And that's when the garage door creaked open, spilling bright white light into the night. And there she was, staring right at me. Jasmine froze when she saw me. For a second, the look in her eyes wasn't fear. It was calculation. Like she was flipping through her mind, trying to decide which story to tell. Then came that smile. Small, easy, practiced. "Oh, hey, you scared me," she said, laughing just a little too lightly. "I thought you were asleep." "I could say the same," I answered, glancing past her into the garage. Behind her, the space looked nothing like the one we'd left months ago. My old storage boxes were pushed against the far wall, covered with sheets. In their place stood folding tables lined with jars, bottles, and rows of little gold-colored pouches. A ring light buzzed overhead, and in the corner, my husband's old workbench was now a packing station, with shipping labels, tape, and a cash box. "What's all this?" I asked softly. She followed my eyes, then crossed her arms. "Just a few things I'm selling online. Homemade scrubs and oils, natural skincare stuff." "Out of our garage?" She blinked, her tone sharpening just slightly. "It's just temporary. I didn't think you'd mind." Her words stung, not because of what she said, but how she said it, as if I were intruding into her space, into something that was already hers. "Well," I said, forcing calm into my voice, "I don't mind helping family, Jasmine, but I do mind secrets." Her jaw clenched, then relaxed. "Look, I didn't want to bother you. It's nothing serious." She glanced at her phone, clearly eager to end the conversation. Just a little hustle to get me back on my feet. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But as I stood there, the smell in the room, chemical, sharp, burned the back of my throat. This wasn't homemade skincare, not with labels like Luxe Nights and Midnight High. I stepped closer, my eyes catching something on the table, a plastic bag half filled with glittering capsules. "What's this?" She quickly moved between me and the table. "That's nothing. Supplements. For energy, health stuff." Her laugh was too loud again, her hand gripping the edge of the table like she was holding herself steady. Something twisted inside me, because in that moment I realized this wasn't just about a side business. This was something darker, something that could get us all in trouble. That night, I barely slept. Marcus noticed, of course. "You okay?" he asked, rubbing his eyes as he sat up beside me. I hesitated. "I went to the garage last night." He frowned. "Why?" "Because Jasmine's been doing something out there. Some kind of business." He blinked, half confused, half asleep. "A business? Like what?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But it's not just skincare. There's money moving through, Marcus. Cash. Packages. People coming to the house at night." He sat up, fully now, the seriousness settling in. "You sure?" I nodded. Mrs. Ethel's seen cars coming and going. Marcus exhaled, rubbing his face. Lord have mercy. What's she gotten herself into now? That now told me everything. This wasn't the first time. The next day, I decided to dig a little deeper. Quietly. Carefully. While Jasmine was out, she'd told Marcus she had a business meeting. I went into the garage again. This time, I took pictures. The labels, the packaging, the contact list written on a notepad near the workbench. A name caught my eye. Rico. Dozens of check marks beside it with numbers written next to each. I didn't know who Rico was, but I knew enough to understand. This was no Etsy shop. When Jasmine returned that evening, she seemed unusually cheerful, whistling, making dinner like nothing was wrong. She even brought me flowers from the grocery store. Daisies, my favorite. But I could see it now. Every gesture calculated, every smile just a little too smooth. At dinner, I asked casually, "How's your little business going?" She froze, then smiled again. "Better than ever." Marcus looked at her sharply, then at me. "You mean the garage thing?" Jasmine's eyes flickered, realizing he knew. Yeah. Just selling scrubs online. It's not a big deal." He leaned back, sighing. "Jazz, you sure you're not getting mixed up with the wrong folks again? You promised me after Atlanta." Her spoon clattered into her bowl. "Don't bring that up, Marcus." I looked between them. "What happened in Atlanta?" She shot him a glare. "That was years ago. I was just around the wrong crowd." Marcus's silence was answer enough. After that, dinner ended in tension. Jasmine disappeared into her room, slamming the door. The next morning, I found an envelope slipped under my bedroom door. No note, just cash. Neatly stacked, rubber banded. At least $500. My heart sank. I went to her room and knocked. "Jasmine?" No answer. I knocked again, harder. "You left something by my door." The door opened slowly. She looked tired, hair messy, eyes red. "That's for rent," she muttered. "We don't charge family rent," I said quietly. "Well, now you do." Her voice cracked, defensive but trembling underneath. "Jasmine, what's going on?" I whispered. For a second, she looked like she might tell me. But then her expression hardened. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." She stared at me, her voice breaking into anger. "You think I want to be here? Living in someone else's house? I'm doing what I have to do. For once, I'm not begging anyone." And just like that, she shut the door. That night, Marcus and I argued. "She's your sister," I said, "but she's putting this house at risk. What if something illegal is going on?" He rubbed his forehead, his voice low. I know. But if we accuse her without proof, it'll just blow up. You know how Jasmine gets. So we just wait until the police show up?" "Don't talk like that, Linda," he snapped, then sighed. "Look, I'll talk to her tomorrow, but promise me, don't go snooping around anymore." I nodded, but deep down, I already knew. I couldn't just sit back. Something was coming. I could feel it. And sure enough, 2 nights later, I woke to flashing blue lights through our bedroom window. Marcus jumped out of bed. What the hell? I ran to the front door. There were 2 police cars parked outside, lights swirling red and blue across our lawn. Officers were talking to someone by the driveway. Someone in a gray hoodie, handcuffed. When I looked closer, my stomach turned to ice. It was Rico, and standing beside him, arms crossed and pale-faced in the cold light, was Jasmine. I threw on my robe and rushed out the door before Marcus could stop me. The cold air slapped my face awake, the smell of wet grass and exhaust heavy in the night. "Officer, what's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. The taller officer glanced at me, his expression calm but firm. "Ma'am, you live here?" "Yes, I'm the homeowner." He nodded. "We received a call about suspicious activity, possible exchange of illegal goods. Your sister-in-law and this man were found in the driveway transferring several unmarked packages." Jasmine's eyes darted to me, wild and desperate. "Linda, it's not what it looks like. I swear." "Then what is it?" I asked quietly. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked like a cornered child, frightened, ashamed, and still trying to find the right lie. Marcus finally came up behind me, his voice low and shaky. "Officers, can we talk inside? Please?" They agreed after confirming no weapons or drugs were on site. Rico was taken to the patrol car for questioning, while Jasmine followed us into the living room. The silence inside felt heavier than the night outside. The officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am," he said to Jasmine, "we're going to need to look through the area where the items were being stored. Is that the garage?" She swallowed hard, nodding. Marcus rubbed his face, muttering, "Lord help us." When they opened the garage door, the truth hit like a punch. Boxes upon boxes stacked high, some open, showing jars, bottles, and bags filled with powder and liquid. Labels printed professionally, receipts, a small ledger book full of transactions. The officer flipped through a few pages, frowning. "This looks like an unlicensed cosmetics operation, but these ingredients—" He paused, sniffed one jar. "They're not standard." He motioned for his partner. "Get this tested." Jasmine's voice cracked. "It's not drugs. It's supplements. Organic stuff. I was trying to build a brand." But the officers weren't buying it. They spoke quietly, took photos, and soon after, left with samples. One told us they'd be back after testing the contents. The moment they drove off, Jasmine burst into tears. "Linda, I didn't mean for it to get this far," she cried. "Rico said he could help me start a business, that he knew people who'd invest. I needed money." "Money for what?" I asked, my voice flat. She looked away. "To pay off what I owe." Marcus sat down heavily on the couch. "Please tell me you're not in debt with those people again." Her silence was the answer. I remember sitting across from her that night. The ticking clock loud in the quiet house, the hum of the refrigerator somehow menacing. "Do you realize what could have happened?" I said softly. "You used our home, our address. My name is on that utility bill, Jasmine. If they find something illegal—" She covered her face with her hands, sobbing. "I didn't mean to drag you into it." "But you did." Marcus didn't say a word, just stared at the floor, jaw tight, hands clasped like he was praying. That image still burns in my mind. My husband sitting there, watching his sister fall apart in our living room, torn between anger and heartbreak. I wanted to feel sorry for her. I did. But the betrayal ran deep. This wasn't just about the garage. It was about trust. By morning, I knew what I had to do. When Marcus left for work, quiet, distant, I called my cousin Gloria. She's a paralegal and has dealt with her share of messy family situations. "First thing," she told me, "get proof that you weren't involved. Take pictures. Make a statement if needed. Protect yourself, Linda." Her voice was sharp, practical, exactly what I needed. So I did just that. I photographed every label, every receipt, every jar with Jasmine's handwriting on it. I printed the bank notices that showed her PayPal transactions linked to her own name. Then I went down to the local station and gave a voluntary statement. Calmly, clearly. The officer I spoke to nodded, sympathetic. You did the right thing. This happens more often than you'd think. Family taking advantage of shared space. We'll make sure you're not tied to her case. Walking back to the car afterward, my knees nearly buckled. I hadn't realized how much fear I'd been carrying until that moment. Fear for my home, for my kids, for our reputation. When I returned, Jasmine was packing her things. Her eyes were swollen and her hands trembled as she stuffed clothes into bags. I'm leaving, she said, her voice hollow. Before I ruin anything else. You don't have to. Yes, I do, she interrupted. The police will come back. You and Marcus shouldn't get dragged down with me. There was a long pause. The sound of her zipper closing felt like a full stop, the end of something that had already broken long before. Jasmine, I said quietly, I don't hate you, but you have to understand this isn't just about mistakes. It's about choices. She wiped her face, avoiding my eyes. You think I wanted this? You think I planned to mess up again? I wanted to prove I could make something of myself. I nodded slowly, but not at the cost of everyone else. She didn't answer. She just picked up her bag and walked out the door, leaving behind the faint smell of that same coconut vanilla perfume, and a silence I didn't know how to fill. That night, Marcus sat alone in the living room. The lamp cast a soft gold light across his face. She's all I have left from before, he said quietly. When our mama died, I promised I'd look after her. And now, I touched his shoulder. You did. You gave her a chance. That's all you could do. He looked at me then, really looked. You're stronger than I am, Linda. You always have been. I smiled weakly. No, just tired of being the one who cleans up after other people's storms. We sat there a long time. No TV, no phones, just the sound of rain starting against the window, washing away the night before. But even as the rain fell, I knew it wasn't over. Because secrets like that don't vanish in a single storm. They linger, in whispers, in headlines, in the eyes of neighbors who saw something. And sure enough, the next week, it all went public. It started with a knock on the door. A polite, almost hesitant knock. The kind that carries bad news dressed in manners. When I opened it, a young woman stood there holding a clipboard. She introduced herself as a reporter from the Daily Beacon, the local paper. Mrs. Harper, she said gently, I'm sorry to bother you, but we're doing a story about the recent bust on unlicensed beauty products sold in residential neighborhoods. Your address came up in connection to one of the cases. Would you like to comment? For a second, I couldn't even breathe. Behind me, I could feel Marcus freeze. The kids were upstairs getting ready for school, and I prayed they wouldn't overhear. I managed to say, There's been a misunderstanding. The business was my sister-in-law's. She's no longer staying here. The reporter nodded, her expression surprisingly kind. I understand, ma'am. We're just trying to clear up the facts. If you'd like to share your side, I can make sure your statement is included accurately. I thanked her, declined politely, and closed the door with trembling hands. Marcus ran a hand over his face. Lord, it's already out there. By evening, it was everywhere. The headline read, Local woman caught running unlicensed skincare business out of family home. They didn't mention Jasmine's last name, but they did print the street. Our street. And that was enough for the neighbors to start whispering. That week was a blur of side glances and sympathetic smiles. At the grocery store, someone stopped me by the dairy aisle. Linda, honey, we read the news. You okay? I told my husband. I said, that woman's too classy to be mixed up in that mess. I smiled weakly, murmuring thanks, and moved on. But every word cut deeper than the last. Even at church that Sunday, the murmurs followed us down the aisle like shadows. Reverend Cole greeted us with his usual warmth, but I could tell. He'd heard too. After service, he pulled me aside. "Sister Harper," he said softly, "I know this must be weighing heavy. Just remember, truth always stands taller than gossip. Don't let shame that isn't yours cling to you." His words steadied me, but the hurt lingered. Because it wasn't just gossip. It was betrayal, dressed in my family's name. Meanwhile, Jasmine's face had vanished. Marcus tried calling her, texting her, even reaching out to an old friend of hers from Atlanta. Nothing. She'd disappeared as if she'd never been here at all. Until one evening, nearly 3 weeks later, when a letter came in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in her looping handwriting. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside was a short note, written on lined notebook paper. "Linda, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I made a mess, again. And you paid for it. I didn't mean for things to spiral like they did. I was desperate. I thought if I could just make some money fast, I could pay off what I owed and start fresh. Rico said it would be safe. He lied. Please tell Marcus I'm sorry. I'm leaving the city for a while. Don't look for me. Jasmine." I read it twice, then folded it quietly and handed it to Marcus. He read it in silence. His lips trembled. "She's running again," he said finally. "Same pattern. Starts over, leaves everyone behind." I wanted to comfort him, but something inside me was too tired. Too raw. Because the truth was, this time she didn't just hurt herself. She'd burned everything in her path. A few days later, I got a visit from one of the officers who'd handled the case. "Mrs. Harper," he said, "we just wanted to let you know the investigation's concluded. The substances tested clean. No drugs, just unregistered chemicals, but it's still considered a violation of public safety laws. We've issued a warrant for Ms. Harper's questioning." "So, she's not in serious trouble?" I asked carefully. "Not yet," he said. "But if she keeps moving product under different names, that could change." I thanked him and closed the door, my heart heavy but relieved. Marcus looked at me. Maybe that's her blessing in disguise. A warning before something worse. I nodded. If she takes it that way. He sighed, sitting at the edge of the couch. "You think she'll ever learn?" I thought about her eyes that night in the garage, wild, terrified, hopeful, and said, "Only if the pain starts meaning something." The following weeks brought slow healing. We cleared out the garage together one Saturday morning. Box by box, we scrubbed the walls, aired out the sharp chemical smell that had seeped into everything. I found one of Jasmine's old notebooks, half-burnt candle wax on the cover, pages filled with sketches and plans for products, prices, marketing ideas. She'd written dreams in there. Jasmine's Glow, Beauty by Jay, lists of ingredients, slogans like, "For women who've lost their shine." It hurt to see, because underneath all the mistakes, she really was trying. Just in the wrong way. Marcus stood beside me, holding a trash bag. "You want to keep it?" I shook my head slowly. "No, some things don't need saving." He didn't argue. He just dropped it in the bag, tied it up, and walked it to the curb. The sound of that trash can lid closing felt like the end of something. Not just for Jasmine, but for us too. Life eventually went back to normal. The whispers faded. The neighbors moved on to the next scandal. The kids stopped asking about Auntie Jazz. But some nights, when I walked past the now empty garage, I'd catch myself glancing inside, remembering the glow of that ring light, the hum of her laughter, the smell of burnt perfume. And I'd feel that ache, not just of anger, but of loss. Because family doesn't stop being family just because they broke your trust. The love just learns to live quieter. It was late one evening, about a month after everything settled, when Marcus came into the kitchen holding his phone. "She called," he said. I froze. "Jasmine?" He nodded. From a prepaid number. She's in North Carolina. Said she's working at a diner, trying to start over. I didn't know what to say. Relief tangled with resentment. Love tangled with fear. He looked at me carefully. She asked if you'd talk to her. I stirred my tea, watching the steam rise and twist. Tell her I wish her peace. But not at this house. Marcus nodded. Quietly. Sadly. And that was that. That night, I lay awake, listening to the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. The house was still. Safe. Whole again. But I knew one thing for certain. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's surrender. And I wasn't surrendering anymore. The weeks following Jasmine's departure were quiet. Too quiet at first, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I spent mornings making pancakes with the kids, their laughter spilling through the kitchen. I noticed small things I hadn't appreciated in months. The sun sliding over the countertop, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint scent of Marcus's aftershave lingering in the air. We rebuilt routines slowly. Marcus and I started holding weekly check-ins. Not about Jasmine, but about us. The kids, our priorities, our home. The garage, once a place of tension, became just a garage again. A space for tools, old boxes, and bikes gathering dust. But healing wasn't just about returning the house to normal. It was about reclaiming our sense of safety, our trust, our peace of mind. One evening, as I was folding laundry in the quiet of the living room, Marcus came in, holding a small notebook. I found this while cleaning the office, he said. He handed it to me. It was Jasmine's old journal, full of sketches, thoughts, and dreams for her brand. Pages filled with hope, even amid the mess. I flipped through it slowly. My chest tightened. Somewhere in there was a girl I remembered. Bright, eager, desperate to make her own way. Not malicious, just reckless. I closed the notebook, a tear slipping down my cheek. She was trying. I whispered to Marcus. He nodded, sitting beside me. But we were her family first. She forgot that. I leaned against him, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest. I thought about forgiveness. Not for her sake, but for mine. For our house, our kids, our hearts. Because holding on to anger keeps the storm inside longer than it needs to be. I began setting boundaries with intention. No more unannounced overnight stays. No mysterious deliveries in the garage. If someone needed help, they had to respect the rules. Respect us. It felt firm and protective, not cruel. One Saturday, I sat the kids down. Family is precious, I told them. But so is honesty. Sometimes people we love will make choices that hurt us. And that's when we learn to protect ourselves. With love, not anger. My son, wide-eyed, nodded. So Aunt Jazz hurt us? Yes, I said gently. But we can still hope she learns from it. And we can still love her from a distance. I started journaling again, writing about our lives, our little victories, the lessons that had been carved into us by betrayal. One entry read, "Kindness is a gift, not a loophole. Helping others doesn't mean we abandon our own boundaries. Love doesn't excuse deception. And family, real family, should never weaponize trust." It felt like a small exhale, a release of the tension I'd carried for months. Marcus and I began taking evening walks again, just the two of us. One night, the sky painted in soft, pink and orange, he turned to me. "You know," he said, "we survived this. Somehow we made it through the storm." I smiled, squeezing his hand. "Yes, and we'll survive the next one too, because we know where the line is." We walked quietly, the children's laughter echoing from a neighbor's yard, the world soft and ordinary around us. It felt like permission to breathe. Months passed. Life regained its rhythm. The garage remained empty, save for boxes of old Christmas decorations. The kids' laughter filled the hallways, a reminder that joy wasn't just possible. It was inevitable. I thought about Jasmine sometimes, not with bitterness, but with a wary hope. I hoped she was learning, growing, finding her footing. But I also knew some lessons only hit hard when you pay the full price. For us, that price had been fear, sleepless nights, and whispered questions from neighbors. But we'd survived. We were stronger. And that strength felt like sunlight, breaking through a long, dark cloud. I began volunteering at a local women's center, teaching classes about financial literacy and small business safety. It was my way of turning pain into purpose. You can help, I told them one afternoon. But you must protect yourself. Trust wisely. Set boundaries. And remember, no dream should ever put your home, your family, or your peace at risk. They nodded, taking notes. I could see the same light of hope in their eyes that I once saw in Jasmine, the same desire to do better, to rise above mistakes. And I realized that healing wasn't just about fixing what was broken, it was about growing, personally, as a family, as a community. The garage door still creaks sometimes when the wind blows. I hear it and remember that night. The fear, the betrayal, the heartbreak. But I also remember what followed. Truth, justice, boundaries, and finally, peace. I taught my children to notice, to question, to protect themselves. I taught Marcus to lean on me as I leaned on him. And I taught myself that kindness must be tempered with caution. Because love without boundaries is like a house without walls. It won't stand for long. Life is quieter now, safer, kinder in its ordinary ways. And yet, even in that quiet, I carry the lesson forward. A lesson of compassion, caution, and the hard-earned knowledge that trust must never be given blindly, even to those you love. We survived. We learned. And we grew. As I sit here tonight with the soft hum of the refrigerator and the quiet of my children sleeping upstairs, I think about how easily trust can be broken and how difficult it is to rebuild. It's strange, isn't it? How someone you welcome into your home, someone you love as family, can become the source of your deepest worry. I opened my heart and my doors, and yet it almost cost us everything. Not just our safety, but our peace, our reputation, our sense of security. But here's the lesson I've learned. Kindness and compassion are powerful, but they must be paired with boundaries. Love isn't blind. It isn't a free pass. And protecting yourself, your family, and your home doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. I don't hate Jasmine. I hope she finds the life she's searching for, the one that doesn't rely on deception or shortcuts. But I've learned that love sometimes means stepping back, holding your ground, and allowing someone else to face the consequences of their choices. And as for us, we healed. We rebuilt. We walked forward, stronger than before, with lessons etched into our hearts. So I ask you, my dear listener, when someone you love betrays your trust, how far would you go to protect your family and your peace? Would you have done what I did? Would you have faced the truth, set boundaries, and held your heart steady even as it broke? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. And if my story resonates with you, consider subscribing to follow more stories like this. Stories of love, betrayal, and the quiet strength we find when life tests us the most. Because at the end of the day, we can't control others' choices, but we can control how we rise after the storm.